So I guess as good a place to start as any is really just like, how is UpLync different than everybody else that's out there? Because there are so many other VoIP providers out there. Like, what makes us unique?
That's true. VoIP telephone service over the years has become more and more a commodity.
Hmm.
And the way we've differentiated ourselves is we kind of meld together the old school ways of the old phone provider along with the new school VoIP technologies. So, for instance, back in the day, you might have had a phone system that was in a closet somewhere, and when you
Right,
needed changes made, you called the guy, he came over, he moved wires, he did
right,
things.
right.
That was a full service kind of approach. Um, that was a little pricey also. So when maintenance needed to be made, a lot of times you didn't call the guy because it was kind of expensive, right?
Right, right.
Well, VoIP got rid of a lot of the pricing issues and really negated almost all needs for us to come on site. And so now we can make all those changes in the background for free. And so that's really where we have differentiate ourselves from maybe the larger national providers is that they're going to give you a web interface and a box of phones, and then somebody at your office is going to become a phone expert.
I like to call those people the people that drew the short straw.
Yes, they definitely drew the short straw because it's not straightforward. It's not a simple thing. um, Companies nowadays are less and less managing their own
Right.
IT infrastructure. Managing a phone is no less daunting a task. So we have merged those two together, and that we're the full service, old school phone guys who, if we have to walk into your office, we're happy to do so. And that doesn't even cost you anything. We can literally take care of anything that you need taken care of in a very timely manner.
Right.
And we can do so without somebody at the office having to know anything about the phone system.
Yeah. So I guess one really important distinction that also kind of tags along with the rest of this too is the fact that we aren't a reseller of anybody
Mm.
else. Can you expound upon that a little bit for us?
Sure. Yeah. So nowadays, more and more VoIP companies are popping up all over the place, and
Right.
many of the new ones are resellers. So there's a larger fish, there's a larger VoIP company in the background that's
Right.
providing maybe even a white label service to a VoIP company. And then those are really more or less a marketing company that's going out and then trying to sell VoIP services.
Right. Right.
We aren't that. In fact, we've been one of those big guys in the background. We invested in our own infrastructure a long time ago. We manage all of our own hardware and our own software services. We have engineers on our staff that manages the stack of software and hardware that needs to keep running 24/7 in order
Hmm.
to make the services work. So the difference for the end customer is that when their problems do arise, they're not having to go through layers of different companies
Right.
to get things fixed.
Right.
Chances are customers are going to talk to the engineer who's actually going to fix their problem.
Right.
And that's really unheard of in today's VoIP industry.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I guess speaking of those larger big box companies, a lot of them require contracts, and spoiler alert, we don't. Can
Yeah,
you talk about that a little bit, please?
that's another thing. We just keep going over these things, and it almost sounds too good to be true. We run up against that too. Um,
Hmm.
when especially when people learn that we don't charge contracts, that all comes from me really disliking it when phone companies made me get into phone contracts,
Right.
long-term contracts back in the 90s and 2000s. It wasn't unusual at all for them to ask for a 60-month contract. And if you're in small business, you don't know what 60 months
Right.
looks like. You have
Right.
no idea.
Right.
So we
And
feel
Lord,
like we feel like asking a small business to commit to any kind of term contract is really, it's not in their best interest. So we just don't like to tie small businesses into any contract whatsoever. We do a month to month plan,
right.
where we like to say we want to really keep your business on a month to month basis. If we don't make you happy, we're going to be the first one to help you find a better alternative. Therefore, it's in our best interest to keep you
Oh,
happy. We'll go
absolutely.
above and beyond what I think virtually any other VoIP provider would do to make sure that our customers are happy. That's another thing is, on the flip side of the coin, our competitors, they do require month to month contracts. And we sign up a lot of customers who have to deal with early termination fees from their old provider. And
Those can be outrageous.
those can be crazy outrageous. And in some cases, we'll even help the small businesses. You know, we we're not attorneys. We can't help them get out of those, but there are strategies and ways that you can work around some of those things. And in some cases, we even help with equipment costs and things like
Right.
that help it make it easier to switch. We just don't believe in that kind of business philosophy. Not to say that any of those businesses that do that are bad, but we feel like it's just another one of our competitive advantages that we
Right.
don't have to we don't have to do contracts
Right.
in order to be competitive.
And a part that I think, maybe this is just me, but I think we really pride ourselves on making sure that that transition for a business too is a smooth transition, because a lot of times that tends to be a hurdle that business owners have to jump, is that idea of like, what am I going to be dealing with when this actually transitions? I mean, I get that question all the time in sales meetings.
Yeah, one of the biggest sticking points behind changing out a phone system, or for that matter, any big piece of technology nowadays in small businesses, is the horror stories of, well, the last time we did this,
Right. Right.
it was a disaster. We've really got it down to a science.
Hmm.
We make these transitions just as smooth as silk. Most people ask you, I know, because you then come and ask the support team, like, well, how long am I going to be down?
Right.
And most potential clients are surprised when we say you're not,
Right. Right.
because those kind of transitions didn't happen in years past. Especially if you're moving locations, let alone changing equipment during a move, or maybe you're just staying in the same office but you're changing to a new system. The old legacy systems, you had to coordinate the telephone company, and the telephone companies, they work when they want to.
Yeah.
So they give you a 3-day window of when they'll be able to switch something over, and
Right.
then you had to
Right.
kind of work
Right.
around that. Nowadays, everything is just real time, so we can come in, put new systems in, and
Yeah.
switch you over in real time, and it causes no downtime.
Yeah, I've had a couple of different prospects, especially in the last couple of months, actually transition their phone system as they were transitioning buildings, and that was a real hard thing for them to process through. And we made it really easy for them. I mean, they were really happy by the end of that.
Yeah, contrary to how it used to be,
Right.
you're better off now to switch your phones out before you move. Since our stuff is internet based, you can literally pick your phones up off the desk, take them to the new office, and plug them in,
Yep.
and they work. So a VoIP phone system compared to the old school analog phone systems, they're much more transportable,
Hmm.
and it makes life easier for facilitating those physical moves of an office space.
Right. Right.